This is a Bulldog Radio podcast.
The Ferris State Bulldogs have upset the nation's #2 ranked team. Wide open! Taylor is going to take this one to the house! Touchdown Bulldogs!
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Welcome back to the most valuable sports podcast, your home for Ferris State, from the fan, the student, the athlete, and the staff's perspective. Brandon Worth, Joe Nagy.
Yeah.
As always, bringing you the banger content.
Another episode, baby.
Yeah, happy Wednesday, and we're hoping you're enjoying a lovely Thanksgiving break. We've made it. We're almost through the semester, Joe.
We're there. We're here.
We're basically almost done.
We are. It's almost, 2 weeks after this break, and then we're done with the semester.
Pretty much.
We only got a semester left, Brandon. That's insane.
Oh, boy.
Crazy.
I'm starting to panic, Joe.
Well, you know, we're not panicking about this banger interview that we got.
Yeah, you were right.
Coach Greg Henson from the Ferris State soccer team. Great interview with him. Honestly, a really good time. And you know him as the guy who's yelling on the sideline, a little stoic guy, but they really get him opening up and kind of joking with us was a good time. So, Brandon, without further ado,
let's swing it to the interview. Now joining us in studio, Coach Greg Henson of the women's soccer team. Coach Henson, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Coach, once again, thanks so much. Final four bound headed to Seattle at the start of next week. How's the team feeling?
Yeah, I think the team's feeling pretty good. Pretty excited about the opportunity. It's being a festival year. It's truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So, we're just trying to take it all in, soak it all in, and right now we got a little bit of a break. So we've been traveling for pretty much almost, it feels like 2 straight weeks. I think the players have been out of class like something crazy, like 9 out of the last 12 days, school days. So everybody, I think, was pretty excited Sunday night to get back to our Monday night, I should say, to get back to be able to sleep in your own bed. But overall, the excitement. There's only 4 teams out of 250 something that are still training right now. So you can't be more excited than that.
Yeah, and it certainly was a tough road to get to this point. You had to take on a lot of good teams, including Ashland, a team we played earlier this year. They got the better of us in the first half. Cedarville, we had to play on their home field. Grand Valley, of course, no mention weather up there. And then Bemidji on their home field. Just talk about the resiliency of your team, especially not only beating those tough teams, but battling the elements as well.
Yeah, I think it just all comes down to mindset and culture and things that we talk about as a program. Going into it and seeing it play out on the field, and I kind of told the girls, and this is a direct quote. It's like we talked about the Bemidji trip, and kickoff on game day on Friday against Grand Valley was going to be a high of 11 degrees. I said, before we start complaining, this is an optional trip, right? If you don't want to do it, nobody's forcing you to get on the plane. So let's do that. So we took 5 minutes to complain about the weather, and then it was back to business. And that's been the mindset of our team, all the way through the year. Stick to the process, grind it out. Let's go. Whatever the weather throws at us, whatever, it is what it is. We get an opportunity. We earn the opportunity to play. I think last year, I got quoted as saying you earn the opportunity to play in bad weather, and that's really what it is. And so, whoever we face, we face. We definitely had a tough road because of our seeding in the region, because of our struggles early in the year, which are well documented, right? You know what I mean? Nobody seems to want to let me forget we started 1-3-2 this season, but I don't think we were a 6 seed. I don't think the teams that we played felt like they were justified in playing against a 6 seed. But we knocked off 3-2-1 in the region, and then played the team that came out of the central region, and we're the one left standing. So, we're excited about the opportunity we have coming up.
Yeah, numbers don't matter in postseason.
Yeah, for sure. And, going back to Grand Valley, 4 times that you faced them in this season, what was that like kind of going even 3rd time in the GLIAC tournament and then going into the national playoffs? Kind of what's that like for you as a coach to get these players of yours ready to go against a team that you've seen a lot so far this season?
Yeah, so it's 7 times in the last 2 seasons,
Jeez.
Right? So the scout's pretty easy. Number one, right? I mean, it was me and my staff when we drew Grand Valley. Like, well, we can relax a little bit. We already know. We were more trying to anticipate what are they going to do differently, or what are they going to do to try to catch us off guard. And for us, it's just keep the formula rolling and what works for us. And I think that's been the part of it. All season long, and the 11 game unbeaten streak, and the role we've been on. is focusing internally more than you really are our opponent. Because if we do what we need to do, we're going to be successful no matter who we're playing against, whether it's Grand Valley, whether it's Cedarville, Bemidji, whoever we have coming next. But in dealing with Grand Valley, it really started last season, and the success that we've had with them. I mean, we're 1-1-5 against them. Technically, the PK shootout counts as a draw in those last 7 games, which is crazy that we have that many draws with them. But it's probably the best record any individual team has against, the 2-time defending champions. But it's a situation where I think the biggest thing for us is that our players and our program has gotten rid of the issue of dealing with the front of the jersey. Mm-hmm. And we're not afraid of them. We're not afraid to go play them at their place. They knocked us off in the semifinals 3-0, and I hate to be, the coach. I'd never like to be the coach who talks about, well, the game was better than the scoreline, but it really was. We made an early mistake, gave up a goal 90 seconds in the game, and against a team like that, it's tough to chase the game. And so, the second goal is off a scramble, off a set piece, but then. We played really well against them. So we didn't really go into it feeling like, oh, my gosh, we just got beat 3-0 by this team. It was more like, are you kidding me? We let that happen. Let's go get them this time. And I think you've seen in the rest of the results of those games, if a team doesn't get an early goal in that game, it's going to be a dogfight, right? It's what both teams are really trying to get out early in it. So we got the best of them, beat them in the shootout, and it was nice to send the arch rivals home on a plane a little earlier than they expected. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But Coach, especially with the slow start, it was looking like there was some bleakness overall with the team offensively, a little bit of struggles. What did you do to assess that situation at that moment and being able to really kind of turn that around as the season progressed?
Yeah, it's really. I mean, I wish I could give you some magic formula that we had, but honestly, it was just. Not hitting the panic button, making sure the players didn't hit the panic button, and sticking to the process. We didn't change anything. We moved a few players around and tweaked a few things here and there that we had to do. I mean, we had to move Nikki May up front in order to try to help us establish a little bit more offense. And we had to let some young players grow into their roles. I mean, we started 2 true freshmen at center back for 20. I don't even know how many games we played now, 24 games, 23 games, which is really remarkable, and they've grown and matured. And I said this in the post game after one of the games last weekend. If you don't have a roster and you don't follow our team, you don't think those 2 kids are freshmen, right? I mean, just the way they play now. They've grown into the job, and so we had to let some younger players grow into it. And I've described our team as young. I think sometimes that's a little bit, the wrong terminology, but we were really inexperienced. We graduated 7 starters from a year ago, and players that had been in leadership roles for 4 or 5 years. We had captains for 3 seasons in a row with the 5th years from last year. So we were a new group. We did a lot of things. It just took a little bit longer than we wanted for us to get into it. And we have a schedule that's designed to get us into the national tournament as an at-large bid. So there's no easy games. You know what I mean? Every team that. The first 2 losses that we had on the season, both teams were in the national tournament, and we ended up facing one of them for the second time. So it was really just sticking to the process, believing in the process, and we knew we would get there. And luckily, or fortunately, I should say, we did.
For sure.
Yeah, and having so much success with Ferris State soccer so far, you've had so much before you came to Ferris State. Can you kind of talk about what your journey was like, kind of going from high school coaches to then going to the next level at college, and just what your journey was like before you became a Bulldog?
Yeah, so I started off coaching club soccer back in St. Louis, where I'm originally from, and kind of accidentally fell into coaching, to be honest with you. When I was originally in college as an undergrad, I wanted to be a high school teacher and coach at the high school level, and along the way, life changes, right? And so I ended up with a business degree, and I graduated finally after my playing career ended, and got a job in what I call corporate America, and did that for like 10 years. And then early on, probably I think it was 2001, a buddy of mine, good friend of mine who's actually our volunteer assistant now, came to me. He's like, hey, we need help with this camp. Come out and help us coach. And I go, dude, I don't want to coach. And he's like, come on, we just need help. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure I got paid like a case of beer or something for the first camp I ever coached. And so it was good, And then they kind of talked me into coming back and working with some teams. And 20 years later, whatever it is, here I'm sitting here now. And along that way, I realized I hated the 9 to 5 and I loved the hobby. And so then I kind of took a a big leap to take a high school job as an uncertified teacher's assistant, to be able to coach, and left, a corporate sales job. So you can imagine the pay scale difference that happened at that moment. That led to my first college job at the St. Louis Community College at Forest Park, and I had some great mentors there, some legendary people in the soccer community of St. Louis that helped guide me, and took an assistant job at a Division II level, and then got my first head coaching job on the women's side at Concordia, Nebraska, and all on the way, and had high school jobs in there as well. And kind of had a situation where I took over bad teams and made them better, and that's an easy thing to do, right? I mean, it's kind of a great plan for yourself, because you take over a team that doesn't win, you just got to win one game and you're better, right? So, but no, had some good success, along the way. Had some great players, great staffs that helped along the way, and then taking this opportunity when I first talked to Perk, I was at a point in my career where I was kind of done with building or rebuilding programs, to where it's a lot of work, you know what I mean? And so I wanted to take a program that was already good and already kind of established, and then take it to another level. Was what I was looking for. And so Ferris, the year before I got here, went to the Sweet 16. So my first year, we're the team on the bubble that's out, not making the national tournament. So it's almost a disappointing season and kind of head scratcher. And so then to come back in the spring and win the conference regular season for the first time, the following fall win the tournament, get bounced in penalties. So we know how that feels for Ashland, because it happened to us a year ago in the first round. And then obviously the success that we've had this year, so it's been a great run for me and all the players involved and all the stops, and it's great to social media, former players from different levels still following along with the success and invested in what we're doing. So it's great.
Yeah, and you certainly have a great staff as well, having Coach Peacock as your assistant, Coach Rourke as well, as Coach Hunt, which I actually know personally, who's a great coach, especially with culture and mentality. Just talk about being able to have all of those resources and really being able to build everything around the program, because I think what some coaches not necessarily is looking far as you are.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things at Ferris here is I would love to have a bigger staff on the field. We're kind of limited sometimes in our resources in terms of the on the field coaching, to where a lot of that falls on my shoulders, which I'm okay with. I don't always necessarily delegate well, so that's not necessarily an issue. But outside of that, though, we have tremendous resources. We've got Danny Hunt that you mentioned, that comes in and just gives the players, and I think it's really important to me and for our players within the program, we have to have different voices. The players can't always hear my voice. I can't be the motivational culture leader. I can't then go in the weight room and tell them how to squat, and I can't go on the practice field and start, barking at them there, and then turn around and be their academic, mentor. So we got to have some different people in there, and letting me kind of guide it from the top down. So Danny Hunt's around. We have Professor Kate O'Connor, who's actually a professor in the architecture program, former collegiate soccer player herself and coach, and she's kind of our unofficial, academic a mentor for the players, and meets with several of them that are struggling one-on-one and things of that nature. Andrew, obviously in the weight room, Coach T going hard in the weight room with the girls and doing a great job and being invested with them there. Christy, the dietitian, helping out from that aspect of it. Pastor Mike doing what Pastor Mike does, when needed. And we've had some players that have really benefited from him being around the program. And so there's a big network and a support network. And we talked about this early in the season when we had some things going on off the field that we had to deal with, and really just kind of showcased to them and brought all these people in. Your support network's a lot larger, and your safety net is a lot larger than you give it credit for here at Ferris. And I think the players are really, kind of overwhelmed in a good way of like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I had all these resources. And so sometimes it's tough to get them to actually utilize the resources, but there's a ton of resources here, and it's great. But you gotta, at Ferris, sometimes the challenge is you gotta go find those resources and get the people involved. And when you're successful, it's a little bit easier because everybody likes to be a part of a winner, right? So it helps there.
For sure, and especially for coach's side. I mean, we've seen you in the press box for football. I mean, we've seen you for hockey and stuff like that. What's that like for, with experiencing kind of coaches and stuff like that? Do you have, times where you're talking with each other, kind of support groups and stuff like that, or what's that like for on a personal level?
Yeah, I mean, I love to be able to sit down and just talk shop with other coaches. I think it's important. Obviously, at Ferris, there's not a men's soccer team, and that's a good and a bad thing, right? You know what I mean? We don't have to share facilities, you know what I mean? But we don't also get to share budget savings either with travel and stuff like that. And Coach Pham over with the hockey team is a big soccer dad, so he's kind of my go-to, soccer chats. But no, whether it's Coach Bronkema, Tony, Bob Daniels in hockey and those guys, and just like to sit around and just talk shop about coaching. Coaching's coaching. You know what I mean? I feel like but the X's and O's get in the way a little bit, but I think if we could probably take any of those coaches I mentioned, Tia in there, you take any of them and throw them into the other sport that they know nothing about, and they're going to figure it out pretty quickly, and the teams aren't going to be that bad, right? You know what I mean? So, it's great to have that network of support that we can sit around and just bounce ideas off, bounce challenges off of how would you handle this situation, what would you do, with this type of an environment or whatever the case may be, and some of it you use, some of it you modify, and some of it you throw away and go, that's the exact other way I was going to go. So, but it's great to have that, and being around the sports on campus. I love to be able to get out and just watch other teams play. Don't always get to do it as much as I want, or maybe only watch a little bit. But I feel like I always challenge myself every year to try to get out to at least one of every sports events. Nothing else is free entertainment. So
For sure, Coach Henson, we appreciate the time. One final question for you: we ask every coach, athlete, and staff member on the show, what's been your favorite thing about being here at Ferris State and being a Bulldog?
Yeah, I think it's I came from a very small, university. The last stop I was at 6 years at Concordia University, Nebraska. 1,200 students, 75% of them were athletes. So you talk about a family environment, and that's really what it was. So coming here with, I don't even know what it is, 10, 12,000 students and a much smaller, athletic population, it took a little bit to find that niche within Ferris, but it's still here, right? And it's the people, not just the athletes and the coaches and within athletics, but it's all the way around. It's the Ferris environment that's here. The outpouring of support that we've had over the last few weeks is crazy, and really appreciate that. So that's, I think you hear that at most schools, that people that are happy with where they are, you're right. You know what I mean? It's the culture, the environment, the people, but that's definitely here at Ferris.
That's awesome.
Coach, thanks so much for coming on. We wish you the best of luck in Seattle, safe travels, and hopefully you guys can win the chip.
All right, thank you.
Big thanks to Coach Henson for hopping on the program. Pleasure to talk to him. And I mean, it's not a everyday opportunity, Joe, where you get to talk to a Final Four coach in any sport.
Yeah, that was big time. Love to see it. Big thanks for him to coming on. So we're going to hop into the Ferris State Sports Report, and we'll start off with soccer. Why not? Bemidji State, the last game that they've played before Final Four and before the trip. Big time game, 2-0 sweep. Big time. Love to see it. A little bit slow in the first half, but second half picked it up with goals from Nikki May, and then was it Zamborini scored too?
It was actually Peyton Price and Nikki May that scored the 2 goals for Ferris State.
Dang. I saw one of them. One of them was Nikki May's was like a banger from like way out.
Nikki May probably scored that from approximately 87.4 yards away. No, it wasn't actually.
I was watching it, and she let it fly, and I was like, oh, that's a good pass. And then the keeper was like kind of out, and I was like, oh, shoot, that's going in. And then just right over her fingertips. It was crazy.
It was an absolute unbelievable goal. And, I mean, Coach Henson mentioned it here in our interview about moving Nikki May, a veteran player, a really experienced player, really embodies what it means to be a Bulldog, is a fantastic player, and really moving her from that wing defensive position back up to that winger offensive position, I think really turned this team. I wouldn't say that solely turned this team around, but the offensive opportunity certainly started to come in fruition now that you're seeing all these opportunities, and she's a big reason of it. And I mean, we have some of the best offensive players in their whole region, and they're on display.
You're darn right about that one.
So, I mean, you have Zamborini, you have Peyton Price, you have Katie Nestico was huge for us in the regular season.
Katie Nestico lets it fly.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to see.
Yeah, we're starting.
She'll be not even in the box, and she'll just be like Let me just shoot this real quick.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you can bring in a lot of younger players that are still getting that with Avery Comartin and Grace Pratt as well, who got minutes in this game and a couple shots for them as well in the contest. But, yeah, it was a fantastic, especially the second half. I thought we played phenomenal coming out of halftime in the first 10 minutes, basically, and netting 2 to really push the momentum on the Beavers, and they weren't ready for it on their home field. And I think that just made a huge statement for how confident this team is right now, being able to put their foot on the gas. And, I mean, Daria was fantastic in this game as well. 20th shutout already as a Bulldog, and she still got 2 years, ladies and gentlemen.
Broke the record.
Yeah, I mean, that's just insane by itself. I believe they gave her 4 in this game. There was a couple that were some pretty spectacular saves, and throughout the entirety of the postseason so far, she has been fantastic.
Locked down.
But yeah, I mean, overall from this game, and even especially the game before that against the lovely Lakers that we sent home early. I mean, that was a really hard-fought, gritty game overall. And I mean, being able to win that in penalties was huge. I mean, who else but a freshman to send the Lakers home and sink the ship? And Ella Wolf, who's been fantastic. I mean, her and Bella Valoni, the two mentioned freshmen from Coach Henson on that center back line, they've played fantastic this year. And I think he's absolutely right that if you don't follow this team, you don't look at roster cards, you don't look at a lot of these players' bios, you don't know they're freshmen. They look as experienced as a lot of these upperclassmen. So, I mean, it was really good to see the performance. I mean, especially hard-fought battles against Grand Valley all year. They got the better of us in the semifinals, but maybe the cold was the killer for them, and that's where our team has thrived. We've showed it last year, and we show it this year. You play for the right to play in bad weather.
Yeah, that's a big-time thing, and especially with Daria breaking that record is really cool, and they got a tough task coming up with this Final Four trip. Going to be taking on number 1 Westchester, who has a record of 22-0-1. They're the outright number 1 seed for this tournament in the Final Four. This one's going to be tough, but hey, we've been playing Cinderella and upset all year long, starting off a 1-3-2 record. It's no surprise, really. I mean, we're going to be able to come in. We're going to be able to really play well. I think it's just really stepping up on the defensive side and kind of working on what we've been really doing well is just kind of in transitions, especially from defense and kind of taking the ball over and then really moving it well in the midfield and then getting some offensive chances is going to be a big thing. But the other teams in the Final Four, Columbus State, who has a record of 22-1, coming in at number 2, and then number 3 is Western Washington at 17-2-4. This one's going to be a big one. Cannot wait for this game.
Yeah,
it's going to be pretty insane.
It is going to be insane. I mean, Westchester.
Insane when we get the upset again.
Yeah, that would be pretty insane. Westchester's a really good program, man. They have played very well this year. 23 games they've played, only 7 goals allowed. That is the best in the entire country at that mark. .301 is their goals allowed average, which their defense is legit, and I think we're ready for that. And I'm not trying to say it like just a biased homer, like, yeah, we're gonna go win the whole thing. Obviously, that's what we're hoping for, but we've taken on some of the better teams in the country defensively as well. Grand Valley's on this list. I believe they're hovering around 25. We've played them earlier this year 4 times, so we know how it feels to play those teams. We played the number 8th best defense statistically earlier this season in the opener against Maryville. So we're ready for a lot of these good defensive teams. We beat Ashland, who's a very fun, really good, really fun defensive team. And I think we're ready to take this challenge because it seems like the energy the other team is providing, we're amplifying for ourselves, because especially in parts of the game, I mean, especially the Grand Valley State game, offensively we were having a little bit of struggles. And then like Daria and the defense started really locking up. And then it started creating opportunities the other way. They were feeding off the energy. I mean, when your goalkeeper makes 11 saves, that's going to spark a lot of energy on your team of, yeah, we can do this, man. Even though like she's having a hard time seeing all these shots, the defense still stepped up better throughout the majority of that game. Obviously, there were situations that they would have probably had to have back and not given Daria a scare with a shot directly on net. But, I mean, especially with this team's resiliency, playing in the cold, playing against these really top-tier programs, and just being able to out-grit them, I mean, that's the blue-collar mentality being a Bulldog is all about, man. Yeah, for sure. And if we go deep into these games where it might come down to a shootout, stop playing. I take us every day in a shootout. We've gotten, 3, or was it 2 or 3? Well, 2 in the postseason.
2 in the postseason, and then
I don't
mean,
think
we played
had
a tie. We played at times like what 5-6 times this season.
Yeah, something like that. But
something crazy like that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's gonna be fun. It's definitely gonna be a fun matchup to see how we stack up against them. But I mean, when it comes to scoring offense, I mean,
7 times we've tied this season.
7 times? Dang, that's a lot. But I think with how our team is kind of structured, we thrive in the games that aren't like track meets, for example. We thrive in the low-scoring games, and we're used to that. I mean, we've had one of the, just going off of Daria's stat, she's already had 20 clean sheets so far in her career, 20 of them already, where we've held opponents to 0. And I know at least we've had I believe 5 or 6 that we've shut out opponents this year. And rest of the year, we've never seen a game that's been above 4 goals. And the only one that was forced upon by us, and that was against Parkside. So we live for the gritty games, so we're ready for this matchup. 8 o'clock on December 1st. That's next Thursday in Seattle. Shout out to Brody and Chandler, who will be on their way to support the women's soccer team. You'll find all of the information on the pregame interviews. All the social media handles will be handled by those two, so we wish them the best up in the PNW, and it's going to be a fun weekend to see how this team goes. Keep it riding, because this team, what a turnaround it has been.
Bet on us.
Bet on us.
Straight up.
We may not have started strong, but we sure as heck are finishing strong than anybody else.
Man, stop playing.
Stop playing. Come on. We're rooting for you guys. Good luck in Seattle. Anyway, moving on over now. Volleyball was in action just recently in the regional tournament and just reached the same point as last year. Could not quite get over the hump. Tough loss.
That's our kryptonite.
Yeah. Missouri St. Louis got us in 5 in the final. Tough match. I mean, especially we were teed up, won the first 2 sets. It was looking really good, and then the Tritons came out with a hammer, sets 3 and 4, and then eventually took the penultimate 15-11 to get the 3-2 win. I mean, it just seemed like their defense showed up, Missouri St. Louis, I should say, in those later sets, and then it sparked their offense big time. I mean, they went to a 20-kill third set. I have not seen a 20-set kill from an opponent against us in quite some time that didn't result in extra points. So that just shows you how lethal they were. .419 statistically hit percentage in that third set. .371 for them in the fourth set. And it was definitely, from what I saw, it was a really back and forth game with a lot of runs either side. But I mean, I think you can definitely look at where this team has been, and you definitely see a lot of positives throughout the entirety of the season. Definitely a great season. Unfortunately, not the way that you probably wanted to have end up. But I mean, just overall, how this team took the you look back at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Pre-ranked number 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Sleeping on us completely, which is fine. Whatever. They messed up and they knew it.
It's whatever.
Getting that regular season title, GLIAC tournament title, and nearly taking the whole regional after saying that you weren't going to make it out of your own conference, I think that shows enough of what this team is made of. And I think with a lot of that young talent, it's going to make them even hungry coming for the next year.
For sure. And I can't wait to see what we're able to do. But like I said, I think the Elite 8 is just our kryptonite. That's just kind of like the over the hump that we can't get across, which is tough. But also, we just can't go up 2-0 in games, because every time that we've gone up 2-0 in sets, there have been ones where it's just been pretty scary. I mean, you look at Grand Valley 3-2, almost lost that one. It was a gritty 5th set to take the win. And Missouri St. Louis, we go up 2-0, and that's kind of tough to see. But I think, especially going into next year, it's going to be a interesting one. I mean, this year, really, we weren't supposed to have this type of success. I mean, we're a young team. It was really interesting to see kind of how we battled back, especially from the start of the season. I mean, we went, 0-6 through the first, 2 weeks of games, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And then we were able to pick up wins against Colorado Mines, and then that just sparked a win streak where we only lost, I think, 3 in the past every single game since whatever. But I think this one's going to be a interesting one, especially as we have a lot of returners, a lot of players who are, really going to come to fruition. I think next year, especially with development, it's going to be insane to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tough that I won't be here. You might, but
yeah, it'll be interesting to see next year. We'll see. We'll see about that later on. Your boy's got a lot of things to figure out. But I mean, just overall from the whole volleyball tournament. I think you saw this was the year of being not a top seed, and I think that definitely has shown itself. I mean, throughout conference tournaments especially, I mean, both one seeds going down in the other Midwest regional tournaments early, including Quincy going out twice. I mean, that's tough for them, and Ashland as well, losing openers in back-to-back tournaments. But, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes from the rest of the year. Some familiar teams that are still alive. Gannon, a team we played earlier this year, they've been redrawn as a 5 seed. California State Los Angeles, which I believe we might have played earlier this season in a tournament, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check. Yes, California State Los Angeles, which we almost beat them. It took them to 5. They're still alive. They'll be playing against Gannon. That'll want to be interesting. As well as Missouri St. Louis has been redrawn as the 7 seed going into this tournament. Concordia St. Paul, the number 1 overall seed for the upcoming Elite 8. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. It looks like the defending champs have been knocked out. Tampa losing in 3 sets to Barry, who will be taking on the Tritons. So we'll have a new champion. That's always cool. We'll see how the Tritons do after knocking us out. They certainly deserve credit for how well they played, coming as the 5 seed, being able to beat Rockhurst and beat the number 1 seed and host Quincy. I mean, that's a tough deal. And then beating us, who's a really quality program. Not being biased, of course, but it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But, I mean, this team had a really good season, just as an overall recap. I mean, you looked at where the team started, took on a lot of tough teams right out of the gate. Many people already wrote them off because they had lost 6 in a row. But obviously some of them didn't look enough into who they were playing because we played, I believe, out of this whole set, I believe we played 7 straight ranked teams at one point in the season. They were at least ranked in their region. And by the way, I think when we finished up this whole season, I think we were sitting around, I remember doing the math for one of the broadcasts about how many ranked regional games that they had played. And I believe overall, I think we were 8-6 against top 8 regional teams throughout the entirety of the season. I mean, that just shows you. And that's for supposed to be a down year. Yeah, we're good. And we showed it this entire season. This team going into next year, potential's through the roof.
Yeah, for sure. Very excited to see what this team is able to do, and it's going to be really cool to follow them, especially as next season starts up in, I guess, next year. So I was going to say a couple months, but there's more than a couple months on the slate.
It's going to be a little while, unfortunately.
Training camp and the offseason starts up soon.
But. Yeah, it'll probably start up at the beginning of the year. So good job. We shout out.
Love to see it. Go team, man.
Yeah, volleyball had a great season. You guys killed it, and we look forward to seeing all the success come about when we see you at a reunion, as well as future games, because they come to support all the games, regardless of what teams wear and whatnot. So
faux show.
So going to be interesting to see how this team does next year, but a great season nonetheless in 2022. Anyway, team still alive. Ferris State football going against Davenport.
The gridiron.
Downed them again. 41-7. Made it actually worse this time in the first round.
A little bit better.
Yeah. The snow was insane.
Crazy.
I mean, just crazy.
Dude, there was like whiteout conditions before this game was going on.
Yeah, it was.
I was making breakfast, or my roommate was making breakfast burritos in the parking lot because we were tailgating a little bit. And that was funny because Tony Neese walked by, and he's like, "You guys are crazy, man." Like he just walked past because he went from the IRC to the field, and you're just like, "I don't. You guys are insane. Like I don't know why you guys are out here.
Why are you out here?"
But there was honestly probably 50 people at that game.
We're devoted dogs, and you guys I believe they
50 people, and like 27 of them were probably in the press box.
Probably. I heard on the attendance there was 1,000 people that made their way in the top tagger.
I think we probably fabricated that one.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, I'm just showing what the numbers say.
Yeah. I mean, numbers don't lie. But.
Yeah, numbers don't lie. And numbers do not lie in the fact of our rushing attack was fantastic. 232 yards rushing. But what surprised me was we were really efficient passing. I mean,
surprisingly, it was really windy.
Yeah, 12 of 23, which 12 of 23 in normal conditions is pretty. It's solid. Yeah, it's not too bad. But in the hurricane snow that you saw, the wind was just nasty. And they were able to keep it going. I mean, 7 yards per play in the passing game. No interceptions. We picked them off 3 times. And we didn't turn the ball over, Joe.
That was huge.
We did not turn the ball over. And I think that was the biggest thing. Coach Anise said it in the postgame. That was probably the best stat of the night. We did not turn the ball over that entire afternoon. Was they took care of the ball, and they played their game, and you see what happens. That's what this team, if they do every single week, we can put them in that championship caliber consideration all the time. It's literally, they're so talented, they're so well coached. And, I mean, shout out to Davenport as well for a really valiant effort overall in this season. What a turnaround they've had. I believe only having 3 wins a year ago to a playoff team, their first playoff trip in program history as well. And really, I mean, just making the fact of how their season went. I mean, they were the shock of the GLIAC, to be honest. It wasn't that Grand Valley overtook us or we finished second or whatever. I think it was that Davenport was third. That was the most important part of the season. They gave Coach Sparky McEwen the Coach of the Year award, which he well deserves for turning that program around. But yeah, certainly good performance from us, and I think really showing that defense can score. I think we're seeing that more than ever now over the last couple weeks, and that's going to make this team really deadly going in the rest of the way against the Pittsburg State team, who's really fundamentally solid both ways. So being able to counter that both ways is going to be absolutely important in this game.
Yeah, and Pittsburg State, honestly, coolest mascot. They're the Gorillas. That's pretty sick.
I don't like their logo as much.
Yeah, well, also their Pitt script is the same as Pittsburg University of Pittsburg.
Right.
If you've noticed that. But
yes, I have
their
noticed
logo's
that.
a little weird. It looks like Harambe's just looking right at me. I'm on their website, and it's kind of unsettling a little bit.
I don't
but regardless.
Okay, I'll just say this before you go back to your point. They just need to make it like the gorilla, but why is the square there? The square is messing me up so bad.
They should just make it a gorilla head. They can keep the 2 colors. Interesting, though. Both red and yellow teams facing off, so that's going to be kind of cool.
That is cool.
They got some pretty sick jerseys, not going to lie. Pretty clean. Anyways, as I was saying, Pittsburg State is a very good team. They're 12-0 right now, undefeated, and they beat who they played? Indy? They beat them 28-3 or something.
Oh, they crushed Indy.
They crushed Indy.
I want to say it was 30 to. I think they might have only got one score.
35-0.
35-0.
Indianapolis, not the greatest team, we'll say that, but they were a playoff team nonetheless, but they were kind of one of the lower ones that made the playoffs. Regardless, it's going to be a tough one. Pittsburg State holds opponents to 13 points a game.
Yep.
Only 166 that they've allowed so far this season, and they're a very good team, especially in rushing 2,000 yards so far this season, and passing they're even better with it. So it's going to be a clash. Very excited to see what goes on. I think our defense is going to have a great test against the Gorillas here. But hey, I'm counting on the Bulldogs to win this battle because you know why? Because we're those dogs. That's why.
We got that.
Malik Mitchell had 4 touchdowns against Davenport. You got Carson Golka right behind him who can run it up the gut. You got Marcus Taylor who can literally give him an inch of space and he'll create yardage out of it. I'm going to bet on us, especially against this team. They're traveling here to Big Rapids. It's going to be interesting, though, because Kansas, I'm pretty sure they get snow all the time, right?
I wouldn't say as much as we do.
It's a little bit south, but usually those landlocked states get kind of more, it's kind of all or nothing.
Yeah, they'll definitely get snow, but they don't get Michigan snow.
No,
that's
for sure.
A fact.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But yeah, I mean, Pittsburg State comes in number 6 ranked scoring defense, only allowing 13.8 points per game. That looks daunting, but hey, we're number 7, 13.91. So that's a really even slate when you look at it statistically. But they're definitely going to be an interesting team to look out for as far as turnovers because we commit a lot of turnovers at some points of the season. We've done a lot better job of it as of recently, which makes me very, very pleased overall. So it'll be interesting to see how that battle goes. As far as who's going to keep the ball the longest, because I think that could win us the game. And I think when it comes to the overall outlook of this game, I mean, you mentioned it, Joe, that their offense is very and I wouldn't say completely one-dimensional, but you're definitely going to be focused there on the run. So I think you're going to be interested to see how that goes as far as how they're going to scheme the running attack. I think you're going to see a similar game against each other. I think it's really going to be interesting to see who's going to try to go out of their identity just a little bit to try to win this game the earliest, because it's going to be really a chess match, right? Mm-hmm. Both teams are good rushing, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see what team is going to start throwing the ball around, and I think that's going to be something to watch throughout this game. But, I mean, overall, 2 really similar teams, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this game goes about.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Pittsburg State has some quality wins so far this season as well. Early on in the season, beating ranked number 11 at the time, Nebraska Kearney 35-28. Also upending number 9 Northwest Missouri State in the nail biter 24-22, and also obviously just rolling Indianapolis just a week ago. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially with how the bracket is kind of going that way right now. Northwest Missouri State has a chance to play upset against Grand Valley this week. 47-17 win over Washita Baptist, played upset there by a large margin. So that one was great to see. And Grand Valley Northwest Missouri State doesn't have the greatest team that they've had in the past couple years. Obviously, definitely not as good as last year. But they do have a chance, especially with their defense and offensive abilities, to kind of play a little bit of spoiler against the Lakers. So we'll see how that goes. But very excited for this weekend. Ferris State's gonna roll Pittsburg, and we're gonna move on to the championship for regionals.
That would be nice, I would say. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see how both these teams do. And I think with Pittsburg State, we're going to be watching out for the pass a little bit. I know I said run earlier, but I meant to say pass.
They're pretty solid on both ends.
They are. They're definitely solid.
Real.
Both sides. I think UIndy did a great job of being able to limit them rushing. And I think what they did was they countered with the throw a little bit. And I think that's definitely going to be that's their strong suit. And the reason that I'm so focused on the run is because, especially going into these elements, I mean, we don't know what the weather's going to be like.
It's supposed to be pretty nice. It's supposed to be a high of 45, sunny. So it'll be pretty even playing ground.
Yeah, so
you know what that means? Air attack by the Bulldogs.
Air attack. So yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see. I really think that the running game, as much as they're good at passing, I think it's going to come down to the running game, because I think if you're Pittsburg State in this situation, you know that this pass rush is going to come after you constantly, right? Caleb Murphy, who's now a Harlan Hill nominee, coming at you, as long as Loreola Depot, Ian Hall, and Jordan Jones are going to be coming at you all night. And the defensive secondary has improved. So going into that mindset, if I was Pittsburg State, I don't know if I would want to be throwing the ball the whole time against this team. So I think it's going to come down to the run. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if Pittsburg State still gets, if they try to stay with their identity and throw the ball, or if they're going to try to run it. I think they're going to have to try to run it and see if they can get some success like they've had in a couple games this year with the run. So I'm going to be very interested to see how that goes. But I mean, it's certainly going to be very interesting to see how that all comes about. And I think it's just going to be one of those games where it's going to be a chess match. Who's going to win it in the end? Who knows?
And their quarterback, Chad Dodson, he's a guy who you definitely got to watch out for, nearing 3,000 yards in the air. And then their running backs, Caleb Lewis and Cleo Chandler, both some guys who can do some damage. Caleb Lewis, you got to watch out for, almost 1,000 yards for him on the ground. So it's going to be a very interesting game. Cannot wait. Very excited to work it. Are you working there, Brandon?
I will be there.
Hey, look at us.
Game producing.
Yes, sir. I think we'll probably be the only interns there.
Probably.
Thanksgiving, baby. We only live like 30 minutes away.
We're still getting the job done. And hopefully, knock on that door, Joe, we get a W this weekend and move on. Because I'll tell you what, and whoever we play next week is going to be a fun game.
The crap part, I won't be at. If we win this week, I won't be at the next one.
Yeah, I might also not be at the next one.
I'll be in Las Vegas.
You'll be in Vegas. I'll be in Detroit. I'm going to
shoot, man.
If the game is at 1 o'clock and it's at Allendale, theoretically, if Grand Valley wins this game, I'll be able to probably make it for half before I drive down the rest of the way. But it'll certainly be interesting to see how it all comes about. We wish the football team best of luck. You guys are killing it. Keep it rolling against the Gorillas. And hopefully we'll see you in a rematch at Lubbers next week. If not, a home battle with the Bearcats once again. Both matchups I certainly would love to see either way. But anyway, moving over now, cross country has concluded over in Kenosha. Freezing weekend, if I can say so myself. I believe when the gun went off that the temperature was hovering between 15 and 17 degrees actual, wind chill of about 4 to 6 degrees. It was cold, but it wasn't as cold as soccer had. So, because they had a negative wind chill on their Friday game against Grand Valley, so unfortunate for their part. But really good results all the way around. I know on the men's side, didn't do as well as we had anticipated. Finished 16th. We were hoping for a top 15, even top 12 on a really, really good day. But we still put up a really good performance all the way around. A lot of PRs on, I mean, running your best 10K time on a lot of these just brutally cold, brutally hilly courses, I think shows how much better this team has gotten. Finishing 16th, certainly not too shabby. Donis led the way, 32-41, 58th overall. Noah Griffith, 78th. Myself, Dan Hardesty, 107, 108, respectively, with PRs, as well as Kevin Wilson in 5th with a 33-48 overall time. Brendan Kearney right behind him, 122nd, as well as Ethan Hamilton wrapping up the top 7. On the men's side, the women's side had a really strong performance as well, finishing 9th. In the entire field, really good performance for them, finishing top 10 in the Midwest, and this team was certainly on that radar for quite a bit of time. They actually squeaked in for a couple weeks there in the middle of the season, and they showed it here the rest of the way. Danae Feldspach finished 39th on the women's side, 22:47 time, as well as Hannah Brock 42nd, Whitney Farrell 45th, respectively for the Bulldogs. Melina Strauss 58th, and Sydney Kubiak 69th. All under 23:15, mind you. That's a really fast time on that course. Jessica Durkee and Daisy England rounded out the field for the Bulldogs at 6 and 7 for their performances over the weekend. It was really cold. The course was really cool for me. I know I really enjoyed the layout of that course. I would love to run it when it's actually warm and, not our Antarctica type of vibe. But, you know,
where you're struggling on the old... We're struggling on keeping the circulation going.
So I will tell you a fun fact of during the warm up. I had on
warm up in quotation.
Well, yeah, warm up in quotation marks. The more trying to warm up. I had my uniform on the bottom, which had all my bibs and stuff on it first because I was not going to take my hands out of my gloves anytime that morning at all. Then I had a thermal long sleeve, like an Under Armour tight fit on top, another long sleeve, a whole sweatshirt, and then a whole outer Ferris jacket over top.
Drip or drown.
And I know some people that had that on and then a coat. It was pretty much that cold.
You
But
didn't put Vaseline or nothing on you?
I actually did not know. But
I heard that helps out.
I have heard that also helps out.
If you put Vaseline or Tiger Balm on, it'll kind of make it so you don't get super cold.
Right.
You still feel it, but it won't be as bad. That's why a lot of football players wear. Every time I go down to the sideline for football, I only smell Tiger Balm. It reeks of Tiger Balm.
Yeah, it does. And I
heard though that when you take it off or wash it off, you just get super cool. Everything that was held out, it just gets cold times 10.
Yeah,
it takes a long time to warm up.
Right. I think it's a unique idea. I personally didn't think about doing it because
a bath of Vaseline.
Yeah, it just doesn't. I don't like that feeling of anything kind of stuck on me or whatever. But I heard that it does work, so it would have been interesting to try that out.
That would give you more speed. I feel like you got glossy finish on you. You more aerodynamic type deal. But you're zooming through the air.
Yeah, that would be something. Let me tell you,
you gotta go barefoot and wear Vaseline when you're running. That's all you gotta do.
That is the worst combination you could have thought of. Oh my God,
dude, why do you think? Okay,
we're not going back to this.
We're going back to it.
Oh my
because
God.
Here's the thing. Yeah, they got shoes that help you with grip, but here's the thing. You got natural grippers on your feet.
What natural grip?
Your feet. Your feet.
No,
your skin on your feet.
You're talking the ball of your feet as
if you
traction.
God gave us feet, man.
That's true.
How do you not run in feet? That's natural. I feel like that's as natural as you can get. No shoe can replicate that.
Okay, I do have to point out that we don't have a video camera. I just took off my socks and my sandals. Yes, I am wearing sandals, and it is 22 outside.
Well, at least wearing
that's
socks.
Not the point.
Usually he gets the dogs out with the sandals, and he just got them toes bare.
That's true. I'm fine.
I'm just tossing that out. Tossing it out for discussion.
What's wrong with that?
Tossing it out for
discussion. What's wrong with that? Tell me, what's wrong with that?
I don't have anything wrong with it, but maybe our listeners. I'm not saying nothing. I ain't saying nothing.
You started this. You got to finish it.
It's just
what
a
is
little
wrong with me?
When you got the dogs out, it's a little weird.
Okay.
I just wear socks.
Okay. I'll wear socks just for you, Joe.
Hey, thanks.
I'm sorry that I offended you. Anyway.
You didn't offend me. It's just when it's 20 degrees out and you're rocking no socks and sandals, it's just how do you not?
Okay.
How are your piggies not freezing?
There is reason for today because I right now am starting my last load of wash before I head back home for Thanksgiving. And it has my socks in it.
I'm just bringing my laundry home.
Okay. See, that's fair. I'm doing mine before I leave, and I'll just bring my hamper with me. That's what. And
it makes sense because then you don't have to come back and get your clothes and stuff.
Right, exactly.
That's
That's the reason why I'm being crazy today.
Sorry, I just choked on some fun.
There's other days where I literally just wear sandals just to annoy Joe, but that's just beyond the point. But anyway, there's no natural grip on your feet when it comes to running on grass.
There is.
Not on Kenosha grass
If
either.
you're running fast enough, it don't even matter. Put me barefoot, I'll tear that course up live.
Definitely. We need a live stream of this immediately. Instagram live, please, at the MVSP. Make sure you follow and subscribe if this event ever happens.
Speaking of, we can get an Instagram live. If you don't know, or what was I going to say? Of me playing hockey, we can get one of the rubber puckies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We should do that, dude. That'd be kind of funny.
Absolute athletes.
But anyway.
Athletes of the show.
Great performances all the way around across country in the
let's
cold.
Let's get back to the Ferris.
In the elements. Nobody had their dogs out. They were wearing spikes. Don't you worry about it.
Well, I'll say if you had the dogs out in that weather, I mean, you're probably getting frostbite. But.
Yeah, pretty much. But best performance, I know on the men's side since 17. Women's side, I believe just as well. I think better performances in last recent memory as well. I can't remember the year off. It's nationals. Yeah, it happens. But much, much better improvement for the program as a whole. And that makes me proud to be a Bulldog for sure. We'll start up indoor after the beginning of the year. So a little bit of off time. No early bird for anybody. So no early track meet for us.
Let's go.
With the longer season, of course. I mean, we got to have the time to recover. I mean, we've been running 2 weeks longer than any other season we've ever had, which doesn't sound like a lot, folks, but it definitely is. Another whole race. Different. Yeah, it's definitely a different vibe, and it was definitely an experience. I will say that. But so yeah, we'll be back. I don't think the schedule has been released as of yet, but bank on, I believe, the second week of January. We'll begin indoor track, so that'll be fun to see going into the 2023 season. Holy cow, it's almost a new year.
Absolutely. Keeping it rolling on this Ferris-centered episode. Hockey, man. Hockey was playing last week.
Let's do that hockey.
Let's do that hockey. On the ice, team took on Bowling Green. Crazy game, man.
Tale of two games.
Completely
different games. Friday was not good. We can just leave it at that.
Well,
it was not good.
Honestly, that's a little bit too nice. Friday was a dumpster fire.
That's
what we'll say. Friday was an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah, you said it on me. But yes, that's the same point. It was very bad.
Not great.
It was bad. Anyway, we're not going to cover that game because
forget about it.
The real team showed up on Saturday. 4-1 win over the Falcons, the top-ranked Falcons in the standings. Getting 3 points from them was big. Big night all the way around offensively. Nick Nardicia started it right off the get-go in the first period, as well as Caden Galt, first career goal for him. Congrats. And Blake Evano scored an unassisted goal to make it 3-0. Antonio Venuto added an empty net later in the game to get us the 4-1 win. And I think overall, you looked at the difference of these two games, and defense locked up really well.
Yeah.
And the offense was able to counter big time.
Yeah, that was pretty cool to see. Just kind of the change up. I know Daniels was, pretty angry, especially with the outcome of the first game. Kind of just listening to that post-game press conference, you can tell he was just kind of really frustrated with that performance. But to be able to really come back second game, and we sat a lot of our regular starters. They were scratches. We were able to kind of turn on some of our younger guys to be able to play really well and give them a lot more hockey to play and kind of give them a little bit more of a workload. So that was really cool to see. But I just think, like you said, Brandon, defense really stepped it up. We closed out a lot of shots. Penalties, I feel like we could have done a little bit better of cleaning that up. But even when we were on the penalty kill, we played really solid, and we were able to kill a lot of those penalties. So all in all, huge split, I would say. Would love to get the sweep, but the split is just as good, especially against a team that's atop the CCHA standings, which is huge to see. But it's going to be interesting because we got another one coming up this weekend.
Yeah, the split after what we saw Friday, that was huge.
Yeah, that's big time.
Turning it around.
Also, shout out to Noah Giesbrecht because he made what? He was CCHA goaltender of the week.
Shout out.
And how many saves did this man make? How many saves?
He made a lot.
Let me pull it down.
I'll let you find the number.
33 saves.
There it is.
On 32 saves on 33 shots. So
lights out.
Yeah, look at that.
We have two extremely talented goaltenders, and it sucks because we have two really solid goaltenders.
Yeah.
So you can't play two according to the college hockey rules. But if you could, we'd be all set.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was two goals put on the ice,
that's the bright side though, is because when Logan Stein's not having a good game, Giesbrecht comes in and plays really well. I mean, we saw that on Friday.
And vice versa. Yeah.
When Logan had a little bit of a tough go, but we put in Noah for the third period, no goals were scored there. And then you put in Noah here for this one. There's been times where Noah's kind of fallen short a little bit, toss Logan in, and it's just picking up where they left off. So it's very good to see that we have the depth there at the goaltender position, which is going to be very valuable as time goes on. But I'm looking at this Friday game, and there is some just weird penalties. Bowling Green's goalie got a roughing penalty because he threw a punch. That was fun.
Yeah, there was, I believe, a fight going on at one point. I remember
that was
listening
crazy.
in a little bit. I'll be honest, I tuned out a little bit after the second period and started going into race prep mode. But
we also got called like right at the start for delay of game, so we started out on the penalty
on
kill
Saturday. Yeah, and the lights went out.
Yeah,
what was going on,
dude? It was
shambles.
I'm telling you what, Awa Glaven just needs an upgrade. If I'm being honest, there is lights right on center ice and like above the goals were out. Like there's like a faulty wire.
The two worst places for the lights to be out.
Faulty wiring or something like that. I remember I think I told Blash or something, and I was just like, hey, like lights are out. We need to get these back on because Harrison was like freaking out about it.
He was, yeah.
And then we were able to like get it going, but they just like took off the panel and like the mechanic or the electrician guy, cojones on that guy because he was reaching in on a live wiring in like he took the panel off the switches and just was reaching in there. And I was like, bro, you're going to get shocked. He did not care.
Oh, my gosh.
He did not care. He was reaching in there barehanded. And
I was like, a family.
You got to.
Wow.
One time when I. One time when I was a kid, I got bored and I took the panel off and I didn't realize that like it was live or whatever. So I went to go pull it out because it didn't have any like screw. It had screws on one, so I was gonna go pull it out and I went and grabbed it around the side, like where it was live, and my hand shocked and stuff. And I was like, oh, that didn't feel good.
Yeah, good thing you didn't get like electrocuted.
Good thing I didn't die.
Yeah, that could have been bad.
Tough.
Yikes. Anyway, back to hockey. We played much better Saturday than Friday. That was a good resilience shown from our team. We can take one of two from every team. If we can be able to take two, I'm telling you, that could be the difference. Then it starts at Minnesota State next week. Not this next upcoming week, but the following week, the second and the third.
For sure.
Taking on the Mavericks. Going to be a good matchup. I mean,
going to Mankato.
I want to believe that they're not in the top 10 at the moment. They're actually 11.
Let me do a quick little look. So, NCAA hockey rankings.
They're still going to be a really good team, and it's definitely going to be a tough test for us in Mankato, especially, but I think we can definitely surprise some people.
Minnesota State, according to USCHO.com, so the main one, is 10th right now.
10th, okay.
Denver, Minnesota, St. Cloud, Quinnipiac, Michigan, Connecticut, Penn State, Providence, Harvard, Minnesota State.
That could be right, yeah. I know I saw definitely they were 10 or worse, and I was like, oh,
they're the only,
because they're usually a top 5 team.
Yeah, they're the only CCHA team in the top 25 right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Not even Michigan Tech or Northern?
I was surprised Bowling Green's not even seen that they're the top of the team,
their record's not that good.
Yeah, that's true.
The only reason they're really up that high is they
just
play more games.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but anyway.
Interesting.
We'll wish them best against the Mavericks. Go get them, boys. It's going to be a cold one, I'm sure, next week.
It.
But definitely going to be fun to see how that finishes out. Anyway, wrapping up the episode in the elongated Ferris State Sports Report. We had men's basketball in action actually last night, and it will be tonight as this episode's coming out on Wednesday. Win over Great Lakes Christian, 114-70.
Easy little money right there.
Yeah.
That was, dude.
Offense was lights out.
Offense was lights out.
When they were rolling. When they didn't turn it over.
There was a little area in there where they kind of came back within, like, what was it, 10 near the start of the second half, which was a little bit scary, but we were able to pull away pretty easly. Yeah, but there was just a lot of turnovers that happened kind of in that little bit of a stretch. But big time performance from Ethan Erickson. 6 for 9 from 3-point range.
Sniper.
20 points for the man, for number 21. And then Delapo Olinka coming in clutch with 16 points. Ben and Solomon also with 14 apiece. 5-6 guys over 10 points. Yeah. Or with double digits. So that was huge for the program. That was insane.
Yeah, I thought Amari Lee played really well when he came in. He finished, I believe, with 8, 5, and 6. I thought he was a spark, especially that nasty slam he had on the breakaway.
It down, dude.
Also, that technical foul rule, I don't know how I feel about that. But
bunch of malarkey that was.
It's beyond the point.
Bunch of malarkey.
Yeah, for sure. But I think when you looked at this game as a whole, I thought that Great Lakes Christian did a really good job of throwing different looks at us. Yeah. I thought that was something that they really...
big team.
Yeah, they threw a couple zones at us. They really did a good job of mixing it up a little bit. I think our team responded really well.
They have 17 guys on their team.
They do, yeah, and they played almost all of them, I want to say, by the end of the game. So Definitely made it fun down doing substitutions at the table. That was certainly interesting.
That's been a blast.
But free throw line, we did very, very well. I wanted to point that out. 21 of 23. That's going to get the job done. 3-point percentage, 53.6. Give me a break, guys. Don't shoot it as well. I'm just kidding. Please shoot it that well. But it just makes other teams look bad. 53 boards. 32 assists. Did have 18 turnovers. That was really the only knock, as mentioned.
That's just the only cleanup you really got to make.
But really, I mean, offensive rebounding, second chance opportunities was huge. And, I mean, being able to get the rebound majority by a margin. No second chance points allowed, by the way. That entire night, Crusaders did not score a second chance bucket. That speaks volumes right there. 56 bench points. I mean, it was really it was a fantastic part of how this team played. A little bit of a sluggish start, but once they got back into the groove, like we've seen it always, this team can be so good.
Rolling. And we got Ashland tonight, which is going to be a good game. They beat, who was it? East-West
University is the name of the school.
Bishop Sycamore is basically who they had to play. That was something else. Glorified rec team. They literally went to LA Fitness to go get these guys.
I have no idea. So I had no idea what East-West University was when I heard that this was one of our scheduled opponents at this tournament. It's a school in downtown Chicago. It's in like the South Loop building structure, and I believe they have a building there, and that's where the college is. And
I'm literally
I'm
looking at it too.
Trying to look up. I was literally trying to look up information, and I was like, I can't find their athletic director. I cannot find a lot of these other things. And I believe they
have a 7% graduation rate.
7. Like 7?
7.
Like 0-7.
Yeah. The number between.
Is it like a hard school to get into?
I don't think so.
What's their acceptance rate, I wonder?
Well,
this is going off the rails.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like this is Bishop Sycamore is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, they nicknamed their team, their team nickname's the Phantoms. So maybe they just
I think they just
try
have
to
a basketball team. That's the only one.
That's the only sport I found was basketball.
They literally, dude, go on. They only have go to the little, like, are you on their website?
Yes. We've gone off the rails for this episode.
Okay, look at this, though. Go to Student Life and Phantoms Basketball.
Yeah, I clicked
Look at their team picture. They play in a rec center is what it is.
Yeah.
It's literally the court, the gym is the size of the court. There's no stands in there.
Yeah. That is so weird.
That is crazy.
They actually gave a little bit of fits against Ashland in that second game when I was watching part of that game. So that was very interesting to see how that game kind of went about, but it was definitely a very interesting game. No fans in the stands, a neutral site. Well, I mean, Ashland, I think, brought a couple fans. Great Lakes Christian had none. East-West had none, yeah. Great Lakes Christian had quite a few fans there.
Well, they're in Granite, or where are they from?
They're from Lansing, so it makes sense. But it was very interesting how that game kind of went because it was kind of dead overall, and it was just kind of felt like a scrimmage more than an actual game. But Ashland got the job done. They have a presence inside, and they really look inside a lot. So that's going to be interesting to see how Bayes, how Clowerbout, how those big guys are going to be able to counter that. Delapo even in that mix. To see how they counter and how they play tonight. Mm-hmm. And obviously you can find all that out at FerrisStateBulldogs.com after the fact for stats and more, and we'll be sure to cover that on next week's episodes. It's got some couple banger interviews, by the way, so you want to make sure that you subscribe on any platform that you are on. But yeah, coming off good win at home, especially after two big wins last week, beating Minnesota Duluth, a ranked squad, as well as Northern State. Those are two really good quality wins for us. So I think that's really a positive thing to see, and definitely going to be fun to see how this team plays against Ashland tonight, and really looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah, it's going to be sick. I was trying to just look at the the rankings for D2, but Minnesota lose 14th.
Yeah, they're a good team.
I'm surprised Ashland's not up there.
Ashland, I don't think I think they're right now at a losing record, if I'm not mistaken. They've played a couple good teams so far the start of the season. They're a really fundamentally solid team, though. Mm-hmm. I think, like, just watching them last night, they played Cincinnati, I believe, I want to say, last year. I think in their opener, and they played them really tough, and I think they brought a lot of those guys back. So they've played Illinois-Springfield and Parkside to start the season. I believe lost in just under 10 for each of those games, or I should say Springfield was 13.
Yeah.
13-8, they lost those games, but they ended up beating Gannon in their home opener. And then they're traveling here, obviously, to play us tonight. So it'll be very interesting, and then they'll go right into GMAC play. I think they also play Wayne State at the end of the year. So by the time we get kind of back to towards the end of the season, we'll start to see kind of a comparison to see how good they are. But they were a good team. They were a pretty good team last year. I believe they finished with a record over the whole season of 18-10, 14-6 in GMAC play. So going to be very interesting to see how they play tonight. Going to see how they counter the inside presence of Ashland and see how that game goes for Coach Bronkman's squad, because they're playing really good right now.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
For sure.
It's going to be pretty cool, and I think the team's going to be doing really good. Saw a lot of good things with ball movement-wise. I was really solid to see. Transition-wise, we were really fluid, which was really cool, and we were able to really get the energy up with a lot of slam dunks, which I love to see because those are one of the best things in basketball.
Slam dunk.
Slam dunks. I think there's like, what, 6?
Raise the roof.
6 or I think there's like 6.
There had to have been a lot.
There was like 6 or 7 because Nathan Clouderbaugh got 1, Delapo got 2, Amari got 1. I think Veas got 2, or 1 or 2. I know Veas got 1.
Amari had 1. I don't actually think Veas had 1.
Do you think so?
Clouderbaugh might have had 2. I think.
I know Clouderbaugh had 1.
Yeah, I think he had 2. Because he had like a nasty slam, and then he had one where he just stuffed it.
Oh yeah,
under the basket.
And there was what?
Delapo had Delapo had almost 2 in a row, but they ruled the second one off for a questionable travel. That was the second one that they waved off. So that would have been the other one.
The cool
so
part was Brandon Clearbaugh almost lobbed Nathan, which would have been sick.
I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, please throw that down.
Brother
it was just outside
so
outside the slam radius.
Yeah, like
so he had to lay it in.
A little bit of a misstep too, but still. Yeah. That's going to be cool. I guarantee that's going to happen one of these times.
Oh, it's got to happen. For the fam, that would be so cool.
For the culture.
Yeah. Finishing it out over the women's side, boy, they're on a hot streak. Ohio Dominican, Cedarville, Northwood, Springfield, all dubs so far. Play Grace Christian on Saturday. That game at 7 o'clock at home. Yours truly will be there on the microphone, I believe.
Hey-o.
Oh, boy. I don't know how I got roped into that. But it's going to be fun. But they've offensively played fantastic. I mean, this team is looking spectacular, especially on the offensive side of the ball. 50% three-point shooting at Illinois-Springfield. They shot 45 against Northwood. But being able to win the inside presence, especially the offensive rebounding, I thought was absolutely crucial in that Springfield game. Getting those second-chance opportunities really sparked that team offensively. And I think they're really playing really solid basketball. Northwood, we got a little carried away, a couple too many turnovers, but then we really kind of got it back down. Right now averaging about 11 per game outside of that Northwood game. So that's kind of where I think you'd rather want to be than the 24 mark, obviously. But, I mean, the team offensively, inside, outside, looks really deep. And I think that's a really positive thing for this team so far. And, I mean, especially from that Springfield game, I mean, you can look at the stat sheet and just see how much deep this team really is. I mean, every starter was in double figures. Mia Riley had 10 off the bench as well. I mean, offensively, they've got so much firepower that can really make this team deadly. So, I mean, Mallory had 20, Chloe had 18 and 10, double-double for her. Kenzie Bowers, 16, Deshauna Day, 10, Elwer Irwin at 10 as well. Still, I'm not quite sure where Caden Blanchard is. I'm not sure if she's injured right now, and if there's a potential timetable for that. But, I mean, even without, this team is so deep, just like we mentioned last week, Joe. I mean, they're getting the job done even without her.
With absences, it doesn't really matter, especially when your starting 5 is all dropping double digits, and Mallory McCartney and Kenzie Bowers and Chloe Adoni are almost at 20. So I think we're going to be doing pretty solid. Hopefully, Kate makes a return, and we can see her against Grand Valley, which is going to be pretty sick, and especially against Grace Christian this Saturday. But it's going to be a pretty fun weekend for Fair State sports all around. postseason is going on. New seasons are starting. It's the best time to be a Ferris State Bulldog, and especially we're for athletics. This is always a good time.
Absolutely. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you back next week for more banger content. But until then,
take care, everybody.